Hello and welcome back to Jake's On First, the world's #1 podcast about a fantasy baseball league whose owners all went to LaGrange College. I am your host, Jake Fussell. I'm joined by my co-host, Jake Hipple. Jake, how are you doing? Ooh, chop on, baby. Can you believe that we're the #1 podcast in the world?
I can't believe it. Why else would we do this if that wasn't the goal?
No, that's not why we started, but that's what keeps us going. So, yeah, I don't know any other podcast doing as good of a job covering a fantasy league whose owners exclusively went to LaGrange College.
We're the best.
Yep. No, we're #1 for a reason. We put in the work. So today we are doing team profile and projections on our fantasy baseball teams. We're going to go in reverse order of final standings from last season. So, Hipple, why don't you tell us a little bit about the first team we're talking about?
First team is Olson Meadows. Owner is Jake Hipple, which is me.
Last place.
Well, hold on now. It's top 6 teams make the playoffs. So bottom 4, the playoffs don't really matter. So real in the regular season, I was only 8th. I wasn't 10th. I was 8th.
So you're saying in the season you had sanctions put on you for cheating. Yeah. You tanked the playoffs to get the #1 pick?
Well, no, the draft is based on regular season standings except for the championship teams. So I still only got the 3rd overall pick. But yes, my team going into the year, I lost 2 keepers and I was down 2 top draft picks. So that hurt. But I was the second highest scoring team in the league. It's just I also gave up the most points by a lot.
Yeah, you were.
I ended up 7-11, scoring the second most points in the league.
That's a fun season to have.
Yeah, it was a karma year. It was a karma year
for sure. So, how do you feel you did in this season's draft? Like, who are your keepers, and what do you think you're doing going forward?
All right, so you want me to name the keepers?
Yeah, can we see keepers for every team?
Yeah, I got keepers.
Okay.
I got for all the teams. Oh, wait, we want keepers for this year. That's for last year. All right, for this year, you want me to do the prospects, then future stars and vets? How do you want?
Yeah, let's start with the prospects. Who do you got?
All right, so my prospects for the year, we got to keep 4. Mines were Nick Lodolo. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. That was probably wrong. Joey Bart, Bryson Stott, and Shane Baz.
All right. So I know Bart and Baz are both on the 25-man rosters, and will both
and
be.
Lodolo's going to be starting a game this first month because this first month rosters are 28, not 26.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So you're going to see some 6-man rotations with some guys, our top prospects, getting some time before they might get sent down.
I gotcha. So looking through your, I'll start with your pitching staff. Kind of looking through your pitching staff, seems like your #1 guy, at least by projections, is going to be Joe Musgrove. I don't know how much I believe that. I honestly believe in Chris Bassett having a better year than Joe Musgrove, especially being in a new city. But then you also, I missed Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray's down there. That seems obvious.
Robbie Ray's going to be my 1.
Yeah, he's going to be your 1. I just can't read.
Yeah, he was one of my veteran keepers. And it's interesting because my veteran keepers, I had him, and then Gossman and Montas were the top 2 draft picks available for the draft, and they were both guys that I did not keep.
Okay, so they were like so we had 10 keepers available. They were like your 11th and 12th guy.
Yeah, so the thing I've always done with my keepers personally is I keep hitters before pitchers. The part of that is I always feel like I can find value with starting pitchers later in the draft. Also, I could feel like I could just pick them up. If somebody like Gossman was a pickup last year, but hitters, I just keep them when I can because I just they seem safer to me. So,
yeah. See, I don't know about that. I feel like pitchers just have higher ceilings, so that's why I tend to keep like higher end pitchers.
I mean, looking at my hitters, my keepers were Tim Anderson, Brian Reynolds, Alex Bregman, Austin Meadows, Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez, Nolan Arenado, and Matt Olson. I'm not keeping Montes or Gossman over any of those guys.
Yeah, I get that.
So and my team
Basically,
is built
looking
around
through your
good.
lineup, it kind of seems like, your guys, like, what you're going to get out of Olson. You know what you're going to get out of Brian Reynolds. You know what you're going to get out of Nolan and Xander and
Mookie.
possibly Kike. He got hot in the playoffs, but can he put that on a full season?
Kike is more of a team chemistry guy.
I see that. Yeah. Especially you got JD. He's
And Bogaerts.
sandwiched in the lineup between JD and Bogaerts. So they got the music notes for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now Donaldson is definitely a wild card. Like he could hit 35 home runs and put up a ton of points, or he could be hurt half the year and hit 15 home runs. Like,
yeah, and I made sure to wait till he was kind of dropped past his ADP because I wasn't gonna take him early. I was gonna take him if he just fell to me because of his ceiling being so high.
What's going on with Bregman? He is like, is that projected? Oh, that's 2021 season.
He was hurt all last year.
Yeah. What's his? Do they have projected points up here somewhere?
They should.
I don't.
His
see
projected
it on my page.
points is 659. Projected to hit 270 with 25 home runs, 34 doubles, 90 RBIs, 90 runs scored.
Yeah,
Astros have a good offense, so he's in a good.
They do have a good offense. Yeah, Bregman just went so quiet in the playoffs in general. It was just odd. Like he just couldn't see the ball.
Yeah, he had a rough playoffs.
But yeah, it seems like you have the kind of keepers that can put you in contention. Objectively as you can. Where do you think this team lands at the end of the year?
Objectively,
yeah.
Well, objectively, let's see. I was second place the first year. I always go by owners if I can. Second place first year, first place the next year. Then the third year, I think I was third or fourth. And then this past year, I was the second highest scoring team, even though I didn't make the playoffs. So my feelings are that this team is going to end up in at least the top four. Should be a championship team, though.
Yeah. So with that, what do you think subjectively this team's going to do?
Subjectively, I'm expecting second place.
Oh, that's disappointing.
I don't think I'm better than the top team. He's built next year we'll see, but this year I just don't think I can beat the top team.
I think looking at your lineup, I definitely think this is a playoff team. But where it lands in that top six, I can't say without looking at some other teams.
Yeah, I mean it's Musgrove is a wild card. Marquez when he's not at Colorado. Gallen if he stays healthy. Pitching staff, you never know. I like the hitters. I like the hitting on this team.
Yeah, so that seems like a good place to be in because you can always pick up pitching later in the year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so why don't we move on to our next team? They finished second to last in ninth place in our league, and that is All in the Pham, owned by Daniel Garrett, Esquire. Do you want to tell us a little bit about his season last year?
Yes, pulling it up right now to see. So he was 5-13, which was ninth in the regular season. He scored the least amount of points of anybody. He scored less than one of the owners who didn't set his lineup half the time. And points against were about league average. So this was just a very bad team last year. Now, he is notorious for suffering with injuries.
Yeah, he's definitely been one of the all IL franchises. Looks like he did pretty good in the draft. I don't know all his keepers, but if I had to guess, he would have definitely kept guys like Vlad Guerrero Jr., Chris Bryant, Corey Seager, Lubob. Did he keep Duvall?
So yeah, his keepers, if we're going vets right now, his keepers were Dylan Cease might have been a future star on it. Dylan Cease, Vlad Jr., Adam Duvall, which is a weird keeper to me. And somebody could have easily been drafted later. Chris Bryant, Corey Seager, Raisel Iglesias. Keeping a reliever is always risky, especially one with the Angels who suck every year. They're always disappoint.
Just to note that Dylan Cease would have been a vet keeper.
Okay, he would have been a vet. Luis Robert then would have been also a vet because I think 2 years ago he was rookie or second.
Let's see.
Because 2 years ago it was him and Kyle Lewis. Then last year was a Rosarena and somebody else, Adolis Garcia and somebody. And then
Lou Bob should have been a vet. Did he keep a legal roster?
Yes, he did. He did.
Okay.
He has like 6 prospects. So.
Yeah, I see that.
Eddie Rosario, and he kept. Now, Braves fan, they won it all, but he kept Rosario and Duvall, which were a couple interesting keepers, in my opinion.
If they do what they did in the playoffs, that's a great keep, but that's kind of not the way their careers have gone.
No.
Now, he did keep Fried, and Fried is like one of the favorites to win the NL Cy Young this year. So obviously you're going to keep him. But other than that, on his pitching staff, I mean, like he needs Chris Flexen to have a good year. He needs Clevenger to come back and be Mike Clevenger. And then like Luis Castillo, if he stays healthy, and Clayton Kershaw, he's not going to put up a lot of points, but he is going to throw a lot of innings. So, and then do you think we're going to see Jack Leiter this year?
No, I don't. Maybe in the playoffs, but I don't think he's gonna be a true fantasy threat.
I could see him getting pulled up to be a bullpen guy.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
September.
It's the Rangers, and the Rangers aren't going to need a bullpen guy in September. So if you're calling, he's probably as a starter,
right?
This was one of the weakest This was one of the 2 weakest keeper lists for me when I was going over this.
Honestly, though, where he is, this is probably still not a playoff team.
It's not even close.
But his window is still so long with Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Luis Robert. I don't know what Chris Bryant's keeper status is, but he could, and especially if he's got guys on the last year of their contract, there is absolutely no reason he can't make some major blockbuster deals at the deadline and send talent to a contender for some young, future star talent.
Yeah, he had, I think Chris Bryant and Corey Seager are both in their last year. I got to double check on Chris Bryant, but
I can almost guarantee Chris Bryant knows last year. I can't imagine a season that Chris Bryant wouldn't have been kept.
Yeah, it's he actually didn't have that many guys with 2-3 years left. It's really just Vlad Jr. as the young guy that his main stepping stone.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have future stars. It's all prospects that have been drafted within the last year or two. So
he's in a great spot to contend next year. Like, I like his team. I like a lot of these names, but I really think he's going to have to wheel and deal his way into some major talent.
Well, considering he's kind of like the Mets, and then you look at it and you got Chris Bryant, who's in Colorado. I guarantee he's going to get hurt playing in that atmosphere. You got Corey Seager, who's kind of been injury prone. We'll see how he does in Texas. Luis Robert couldn't stay healthy. Max Fried usually battles something in the regular season. This is a team that is probably going to get hurt, always gets hurt, and he will do better next year because he'll have a high draft pick.
Right, but also, like, if he gets to the deadline and Chris Bryant is going off, sell.
Oh, 100%.
Like sell. Like, there's so many guys I can see on here that if they're really having a good season, you could sell. There's some guys he needs to keep. Like, I'm sure Adam Frazier is plenty of years of team control. If he's having
Adam Frazier's not a fantasy threat, though. He's just a guy who hits 280 with no power.
I don't know. Getting a new system, sometimes a change of scenery can be what a guy needs. But yeah, there's definitely some pieces on here that if they're, come August, if they're really going off, then it's time to sell and sell hard to compete next year.
Seager, Bryant, and Brady are all in their last year.
Yeah, so there's number 3 guys on the block.
Fried has 1 more year. Guerrero has 2 more years.
Okay, so yeah, that's kind of my takeaway, that you know, it's probably not a playoff team unless a lot of things go right and some guys stay healthy. But it's certainly a team that I know the top teams in the league are going to be looking at to take a bite out of at the deadline.
His first pick of the draft was a catcher. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm very anti keeping a catcher, so I don't care if you take one in the draft.
I mean, it was Will Smith, the Dodgers catcher. So it's like a good player, but
At least it's like, I don't know, without looking at the stats in the fuss graphs projected stats, I can see Will Smith being the best offensive catcher this season.
yes, he 100% could be the best offensive catcher.
But is he worth your first overall pick?
Yeah, I mean, because the first picks in the round one, it went starting pitcher, catcher, starting pitcher, starting pitcher, starting pitcher. Tommy Edman, which we're going to talk about also. And then starting pitcher, starting pitcher, starting pitcher, starting pitcher. So, I mean, it shows like a lot of guys kept hitters, and then there was good starting pitching available, and people took the starters when they could, which is why it's interesting you take a guy at a weak offensive position, and then the other one was also second base, which is a weak offensive position. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
So that's probably all I want to say, at least about that team. You got anything else?
Yeah. He's, for a guy with suffers with injuries, he drafted Kershaw, who we know is injury prone. He drafted Kirilloff, who struggled last year with an injury, Mondesi, who's been struggling his whole career with injuries, and Clevenger, who's coming off an injury, and Huascar Ynoa, who likes to hurt himself. For a guy that it's kind of like the Mets, for a guy that suffered with injuries, why you keep getting these guys that get injured?
From what I see on his roster, it's just like he's a high ceiling, low floor team.
Which, to be fair, at 5-13, but the year before everything resets, kind of, it makes sense to go for the high ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think he's in a good spot to build more. That's kind of where he's got to be at. So why don't we move along to our next team that finished 8th place overall in last season? You want to tell us a little bit about that team?
All right.
And we got to move a little faster because we're at 16 minutes and we're only supposed to be doing 5 minutes a team.
Oh my gosh. What do you have, bedtime or something?
No, I just have to get back to.
Are you on spring break?
Dude, I don't get spring break.
You don't get spring break?
No, I just work.
Well, I thought you worked at the school.
I do. So like students get spring break.
Right.
But I do the same thing every day, whether they're students there.
Okay, so you said I get up really early and all that stuff?
Sure.
Okay. That's a little vague. All right, this next team has without a doubt been the consistently worst team. So one thing ESPN had I looked at was it shows you the team standings year by year, like a line graph. Yep. The next one, Team Asterisk, owned by Jonathan Fleckenstein, has been last place every year except for one year where he was second last.
Do you know who finished last place that season?
Who?
Me.
Oh, nice. But at least you found a way to tank and win. This is the classic. It's kind of like when the Astros lost like 100 games 5 straight years, something like that. It's like, man, I mean, he's honestly like the Pirates in a way. Rockies, just constantly bad. Right. Second lowest scoring team. He's almost gotten worse every year rather than better.
Can I say something about this team though?
Yeah.
Without a doubt, they are the swaggiest team in the league. Can we talk about that for a second?
You could talk about
Manny Machado, Dansby Swanson, Ke'Bryan Hayes, Christian Yelich, Jorge Soler, Akil Baddoo, Jazz Chisholm, all of these guys, Adley Rushman, just straight swag. They're not going to put up a lot of points. They're not going to win very many ball games, but they are going to look good doing it.
Now, he did make a trade last year where he traded away the swaggy Tim Anderson for the even swaggier Jazz Chisholm.
Was that the only thing in that trade?
No.
Okay.
It was It was Chisholm. Let me see if there's any of the other keepers on here. Chisholm and Biggio, and there was definitely something else in there, but for that, those two for Brian Reynolds and Tim Anderson.
That's not a trade I would make, but I don't know.
Well, but to be
those
fair,
teams.
he's made a lot of those trades where when he likes a player, he gets them. He doesn't care if it's a little lopsided or not. He wants players, he gets them. I will say that about him. He's the owner who, if the fans want somebody, he makes sure to get them. He ain't gonna hold back. This is a team that honestly should be better. It's just the owner doesn't keep up with it enough to give the team a chance to win.
He might as well go ahead and appoint his son as the head of the scouting department.
Yeah. Now, his keepers, just like our last team we did, one of the reasons they're constantly last is you'll get the keeper list, and it's just the weakest list. So, and the worst of them was being Will Smith, the Braves reliever, who got supplanted as the closer.
He kept Will Smith.
Now, to be fair, Will Smith in the same high school as him. So it's kind of like me keeping Meadows. Like, it's like maybe not a keeper, but he kept Will Smith, the Braves pitcher.
Oh my goodness. Okay, it's hard to take anything about this team seriously now that I know that. But okay, so I will say I like his pitching staff. If he's got, Bueller, Montes, Rodon, if Mize finds it this season, and Kopech, which didn't they just say Kopech is? I just see he was hurt.
Yeah, he hurt. He out.
Illness, suffered off season. Oh, I don't know what that means. So he's like sick or something. So he's got a decent rotation.
Actually, Kopech is fine. He'll start the third game this season.
Okay, so he's got a decent rotation. His offense is just like Manny Machado, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, he also has some good prospects that like Rushman and CJ Abrams.
Yeah, if Rushman comes out,
Brian Hayes as a future
smacks the ball around some.
Also, if Christian Yelich ever gets healthy with his back, I mean, that's a super MVP right there.
I heard he was, and obviously all the guys work on the off season, but I heard he specifically was like really tearing up this off season, trying to get healthy, get strong, get back to his MVP form.
Which, if he gets back anywhere close to that, that's a huge offensive threat that he gets.
What was his OPS plus last year?
Not good.
I
think it was like 90 something.
He came in right at 99. So he was right at league average. If he bumps that up to a 110, he's worth a keep.
Yeah.
If he's at 110, and he only hit 9 home runs last year. If he's at 110 and hits 20 home runs, he's worth it.
I mean, his MVP year, he hit 35 and missed the last month.
He hit 36 home runs.
And he missed about 30 games.
Yeah, it wasn't that many. It was only about 15.
Oh, he only missed 15? Okay.
Uh-huh.
And
he played 147, so.
God, he was so much better than Bellinger.
Yes, he was. But now Bellinger, how many times does Bellinger strike out this spring?
Bellinger, I think last I saw he was like 0 for 20 with 17 strikeouts or something like that.
Yeah, that's not good. But we're not talking about Bellinger right now.
No. Don't want
anything else? No. I don't really have anything else on this team. I think they're swaggy as hell, but they're not going to win very much.
This team isn't good. The hitters have a lot of power, though. Josh.
Yeah. There's also not a lot to sell with. Like if he needs to sell, that's his issue.
Well, we say that, but what if Soler does what he does in the postseason and what he's been capable of his whole career?
Yeah, I mean, he should have been like the Oakland A's. He should have been shopping Minaya and Montes around this offseason, because there are some teams that could have justified keeping one of those two.
This was on my team. I didn't keep him.
Oh, okay. But I think if they're, pitching well, then those are two guys he could shop, at least, to sweeten the deal to get somebody else.
Yeah, he definitely has trades he can make. His hitters all are basically home run hitters. So if they're all on, He's gonna be that guy where 1 week he scores the most, and then 2 weeks he'll score like nothing.
Yeah.
Since he's got some power guys.
Okay. So that's about all I got on that one. Why don't we move on?
I think he and Daniel will finish either last or bottom 4.
I don't know. There's at least one other team that I think is going to be competing for that last place spot, and I think it's the team that we're going to talk about next.
All right.
That would be our 7th place finisher last season. The price is Wong Female Dog.
First off, this name needs to get updated badly. This is a name based on year 1. And he doesn't even have these players anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that was David Price. He's not even relevant. And that tells you how much this person has paid attention to their team. The price is Wong Female Dog.
Hashtag give the team to Kyle.
Yeah, it is forming. I would give it to Addison over Kyle. 9-9.
He doesn't want it. Did you see the draft here?
I could pull that up.
So I'll just summarize it.
Wait, first off, this owner is notorious for his teams finishing about 500.
Right. So he auto drafted, right? So he did not tune into this draft.
We believe
so what the auto draft is going to do is it's going to fill every position, and then it's going to take the highest available, right?
Theoretically.
So he has 2 position players on his bench, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 starting pitchers on his bench.
Let me look at his draft. Starter, reliever, starter, reliever. His first 5 picks were starters, and then he went first. Not good value there. Starter, reliever, starter, second, starter, first, starter. Wow.
Oh, it's so bad.
So many outfielders.
He's okay. And there's some like good pitchers in here, but as soon as he needs to pick somebody up, this is assuming he ever checks the lineup. As soon as he needs to pick somebody up because somebody has an off day, he's going to have to drop like a decent pitcher. Like he's going to have to drop a John Means or a Urquidy or a Heaney, someone that is definitely a waiver wire pitcher. But like the fact that he has all of them on his team is just so funny.
And this is a team that could potentially face sanctions or penalties because he had an illegal roster at the end of the year, and he had no prospects and I think 1 future star. So the commissioner had to add prospects, and one of them was Kyler Murray.
I see that.
So this is a team that doesn't at the moment have any good future, and if he doesn't pay attention, he still won't.
Yeah. So honestly, I don't want to talk about this team. It's just like there's some good pitchers in there, but what does it matter if they're on the bench?
Let's see. I have the keeper list. The keeper list is solid, and that's been the thing. He's been a top-heavy team, which is why he's able to maintain 500.
Right.
But
if he just puts in Woodruff, puts in Barrios, puts in Gaussman and Erod and Ryu into his starting pitcher slots and lets them ride all season, he might finish 500 still.
And he has potentially 3 of the top relievers in Clase and Kimbrel and Chapman.
I kind of the opinion that Kimbrel is over his
potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially. But if he's not. And he's also got old guys and Gurriel and Votto. This is a team that isn't going to be able to compete. So these old guys aren't going to be kept. And you're just wondering, what are you really trying to do with this roster? This seems like a roster that doesn't know what it wants to be.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The nice thing is if he chooses to blow it up and sell at the end of the year, that's going to be a ton of fun.
He has a lot of great pieces he could sell. Unfortunately, he is terrified of trades due to bad ones in the past.
But he keeps making. What was his trade last season that we still? He traded Albies.
Yeah.
To Adam at the deadline.
For Castillo.
For nothing.
Was it? No, it wasn't Castillo. Who was it?
It was for nothing.
It was Luis Castillo.
It
But
was just
Albies
like,
was having a great year at the time when he made that trade.
yeah, oh man. I'm trying to find if I can find
Yeah,
that.
it is weird. He'll make a bad trade and say, I don't want to make a trade. Then 2 years later, he'll make another bad trade, and then he'll say, won't even talk about anything. Then he'll make another one. It's like when he decides to make a trade, it's always bad. He needs to just say, you know what, I'll give you this guy for a first round pick. Deal.
Yep.
Get the player exchange. Just get a good draft pick.
Let me see if I can find it. So it was oh, I remember what this was because I said I hope there was at least a draft pick exchange in the Albies trade. And there was not. Yeah. He just I'm starting to think that that Juberg is the Pirates to Adams Rays.
Yes, he is kind of. But to be fair, his first bad trade was with Yaz. He traded away MVP Donaldson for the Panda Sandoval. And
Braves legend Pablo Sandoval.
And there was a pitcher that he also gave up, and it was just hilarious.
Okay, well, why don't we move on to our next team?
Yeah, we don't need to keep talking about that team.
Yeah, we can lament that in the chat. So why don't we move on to our fishiest team, finishing sixth in the league.
Fish with a PH or with an F?
I don't know which is cooler, PH.
Well, fishing would be, like internet, online, technology, cool, hip, new. Fishing
all I know is
old school with the grandpa and quiet or early morning.
All I know is that this team finished sixth last year after swapping rosters with me.
Southside Steelheads, rival of the Northside Headsteels, owned by Stephen Coelho, went 9-9, scored almost identically the same amount of points as he gave up, has made so many trades that some good, some bad, where he's basically swapped his roster with the team that ended up in second place in the Tucson Isotopes. And
eliminated him from the playoffs.
Yeah, so Southside Steelheads is very busy and it's not just small moves, it's big moves.
It's a great team to trade with, and I'm not just saying that because I won my trades last year. I'm just saying that because he's, willing to wheel and deal and move guys around, and if they don't work out, then they don't work out. He wants to be the Rays of the league and find the guys that we undervalue, and sometimes he does that, and sometimes he gets beat in the playoffs by the very guys that he sent to me.
Yeah, I hope the Tigers beat the Rays in the playoffs for trading Olson or Meadows for nothing.
I think I at one time posted the final score of that trade from our playoff matchup. Of the guys that were traded over the course of the season between myself and Coelho, in our final playoff matchup that ended his season, the players he sent me outscored his players 288 to 295.
Wow.
So that's a fun stat, I guess. No, Coelho's always a good team. His team does not reflect where he finished last season.
No, he kind of sold at the end.
He did. Well, no, he started selling early because he thought he wasn't going to be very good. And then some guys ended up stringing some seasons together and he was very good and was like, oh crap, now I kind of traded away some of my big pieces. So I think if he really, sticks with some guys he believes with this season, then he'll for sure be a playoff team and very likely will be a contender.
Yeah, his keepers, Stanton, Sal Perez, Mike Trout, who unfortunately, when you have Mike Trout, you're not going to win it all. So go ahead and let everybody know now he's not going to win it all as long as he has Mike Trout.
So I actually had a short exchange today with Jeremy Frank on Twitter, random MLB stats, because he was questioning why it seemed that fantasy players or fantasy leagues were undervaluing Mike Trout over like Juan Soto. And if people were really that scared of the alleged injury proneness of it. And my take on it was basically just that, like, what it takes to get Trout, whether it be in giving up a really high draft pick or in a trade, because he's worth so much when he's right, is not worth the downside of when he's not right. So that's why people are steering clear.
And did he respond?
He didn't respond to that one, no. He had
Oh.
responded to my earlier one because I said something about
He's a curse.
yeah, I said, Mike Trout was taken 1-1 in the first year of our league, traded in year 3. The team that traded him went from last to second. So
Coelho kind of counteracted Trout by also having Soto. I mean, he's got big names. Stan Perez as the 40 home run catcher, Trout, Shane Bieber, Tatis Jr., who's hurt to start the year, George Springer, LeMahieu, who's kind of old now, Soto, Corbin Burns. He's got
some guys that could really take off.
He's got Bobby Witt Jr., who's going to be on opening day. He's got Spencer Torkelson, who's on opening day roster. So he's got he's got super MVP, Cy Young guys. I mean, he's got a ton of stuff.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, that if he's got some guys that really figure it out, Bobby Witt Jr., Jared Kalanick, even if the Dodgers decide to play Gavin Lux in the same position 2 days in a row, that he might figure it out. So, if he could really string, what's that?
He's so bad in the outfield.
Yeah, he is terrible in the outfield. But yeah, he's got a lot of things that he'll definitely be there at the end of the season. One of the guys you're like, I don't know if I should trade with you because I might play you in the playoffs.
Now his draft, let's see, he took Lance Lynn. Unfortunately, Lance Lynn is now going to be out for at least a month. He had an injury.
Tore a meniscus, right?
Yes, a torn something.
Pretty sure it was meniscus.
Yeah, tearing his knee. So he's got to wait 4 weeks before resuming mound work. So he's out basically 2 months at least, assuming there's no setbacks. Follow that up with the safe Anthony Rizzo. Then he went Chris Sale, who is hurt again. When he's right, he's amazing. But, man, this is a guy that can't stay healthy. Then he took Jack Flaherty, another guy who is starting the year hurt.
And I think that's part of his, like, he's willing to kind of muddle through till June.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, all my big dogs are ready to go now.
I mean, as we discussed, I mean, you have 2 owners that haven't really paid attention. You have one team that's just always hurt and not very good right now. You can, and since the Sox top 6 make the playoffs, that's 3 teams right there that just have no shot, it seems, right now making the playoffs. So you could get away with kind of being below average early if all these guys come back late.
Yeah.
And he also took Trevor Bauer, which is a little controversial. But
yeah, and I think it seems again that Coelho's strategy this time is he's going to eat some playing time from guys early this year, just hoping that they come back to their full selves by June.
But what's interesting is he did that, but then he basically has half the team that's like that, and the other half is super steady, consistent year to year. Rizzo, Brantley, Wainwright.
Right, but I think that really puts him in a good position to trade really well, because if some of those guys come back and click, then bam, you're really looking at good trades, at a team that's maybe trying to make that push for the playoffs where he has his spot locked up.
This is a team that could compete for a championship, no doubt. This is one that now looking at this one, I don't know if I can finish second with my team. This might be the second place team. Potentially can take down his rival, the Northside Headsteels.
That would be impressive.
It would be.
So that finishes the bottom half of last year's finishers. We saw sometimes it doesn't always correlate to how good their rosters really are. So let's crack off our top 5, beginning with 6 God Bloc Boi, owned by none other than James Poropatic.
You said the phrase, let's crack off the top half. I don't know if I've heard that phrase before.
Yeah, like, let's crack off. All right, so earlier in the group chat, I said I wasn't going to name names, but it's the #1 podcast in the world. So I'm going to drop names and say that this is an illegal roster right here.
Really?
Yeah, he dropped Tim Tebow. So he doesn't currently have enough prospects. And he picked up Lance
Oh.
McCullers Jr. So that's a good pickup for an illegal drop.
So before we get into that, Six God Block Boy had big news entering the year. He, up to this point, had been the GM. He wasn't the owner, he was the GM. But the GM or the owner has officially stepped down, and now the GM, James Porter Pack, is taking over as the owner as well. So he is now the sole name listed on this
So it
team.
seems like he got moved from GM to president of baseball operations.
Yeah, it's now his team officially, like in every way, not just with all the management and trades and draft and everything else.
Yeah.
He's now supplying
So
that money.
yeah, and it seems like he could open the pocketbook a little wider. I'm not super high on any of his lineup. Like he's got some high upside guys. I mean, he's got Goldie, he's got Castellanos, some dudes that can hit, but it just seems like a very like it seems like he's got a lot of like 750 to 800 OPS guys
Yeah,
and not very many 850 plus OPS guys.
he's got good pitching though.
He does have good pitching. So his pitching is going to be like Lucas Giolito, Trevor Rogers, Ian Anderson, he's Shane McClanahan.
Hunter
He's got
Green,
good pitching, especially he's got a big window for his pitching because I'm
Logan,
guessing
Charlie
um,
Morton,
if
Sonny Gray's his
Kikuchi,
worst pitcher.
yeah, I mean, he's got Logan Webb. If
Oh,
Kikuchi can
Kikuchi.
figure it out with the Toronto pitching coach, kind of like Robbie did last season, he could really have a good staff here. Um, and then he's got like prospects. He's got O'Neill Cruz who could come up and do it.
Hunter Green's
Hunter
open.
Green's going to come up and do it right away. He just needs to, pick up another prospect.
Yeah, I still don't like the team name. I don't really get it. Six God
I
Block
I
Boy.
never understood it. It's a relic of the former ownership. He probably needs to just do a Guardians rebrand.
Well, he still does
Um,
have Paul Goldschmidt, so I guess once he gets rid of Goldschmidt, I
he
don't
did
know.
change the profile picture, so that's a
Yeah,
new development.
that's new.
But that's it. So yeah, I like this team. I think it could be a playoff team, especially if he's riding his pitching staff. But he has to have some guys in the offense really click together well.
Well,
Because
I remember this team used to have Verlander. I remember last year his pitching the last 2 years has been strong. He always has.
yeah,
He can ride that one out.
it's
It's
just
just
like
the hitting is you never know.
the hitting here. Mike Moustakas, Jeff McNeil, and Jared Walsh in your everyday lineup is not going to get you to the playoffs.
Well, so you're assuming Jared Walsh isn't going to build upon what he did last year.
I think the ceiling
You're
on
not a
him is
believer.
no,
Yeah.
I'm not a believer.
But he's young, so he is somebody who could be good. You don't know.
Yeah, for sure he could. I'm not bought in on him.
And I mean,
That's all.
Brandon Lau is one too, where I'm not sure either because he's always sucked in the playoffs, and he's a low average guy. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hit 270 with 30 home runs like he did, especially
Well,
with
they're
them getting
also
rid of
just
Meadows.
they're just going to platoon him.
Yeah, and he's a guy they're selling off. He may be a guy that gets sold off.
Yeah,
So who
exactly.
knows?
I didn't know Walsh was a Peachtree Ridge guy.
Yep.
Nice. Go Dogs.
And you
Not Peachtree Ridge, but he went to
memeing
Georgia.
him.
All
Meet your
right.
fellow dog.
So you got anything else on Six God Block Boy?
No, good team, not great. They finished fifth. That's about what I expect. At a ceiling, he's third. His floor, he's potentially out of the playoffs. He should make the playoffs.
I think he has a top 4 pitching staff with a bottom 4 lineup.
Yeah.
And we'll see. That probably lands him somewhere around the middle of the pack.
And he went last year, he gave up more than he scored, but he went 10-8. So
Right.
that he's about a 500 team unless some guys just go off.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a pretty good summary.
I guess. I don't know.
So-
We're the one podcast, so I'm going to say it is.
We are the number one podcast among podcasts that cover fantasy leagues exclusively owned by LC alumni. That we know of, I guess. There could be
By the
another
way,
fantasy
for
league out
people
there.
listening on not live, right now we are recording during the college basketball championship, and Kansas is just taking the lead with 55-50 with 10 minutes to go. That's where we are in life right now.
All right. Thanks for the update. Let's talk about our number 4 finishing team last year. The same team, new story, owned by Alex Gaba.
This team was also a new owner who took over for a previous owner, inherited a good team, and has not squandered it, has built on it, went 12-6, was surprisingly kind of beat in early in this he made it to the semis, but he was somebody that was supposed to win the semis, and he lost in the semis. So he actually had a disappointing finish because he was looking for a championship and couldn't even make it there.
So I like this team.
team.
This is definitely my division rival right here.
100%. You're the Tucson Isotopes in the same team news story.
We had some really close battles, and
you guys are on the field rivals, but off the field rivals, he is rivals with all in the Pham.
That's true. So it makes me excited that I'm opening up my home opener to start the season is against him, because I never beat him in the regular season last year. But let it be known that you can't beat me 4 times in a row. So I beat him in the semifinal of the playoffs because he ran into, over a 2-week period, 4 Max Scherzer starts in his stretch with the Dodgers where he went 7-0. So you're not going to come back from that.
Dude, that opening matchup should be sold out.
Yeah, we're going to have to get that on ESPN.
You guys should sell this matchup. You guys can
make it okay. We'll make it an NFT.
And you guys can make some NFT.
Okay.
Some Bitcoin.
So looking at his pitching staff, it kind of seems like all his hopes and dreams are now on the IL because Jacob deGrom is once again hurt.
Shocker.
Like Framber is going to do it. I like Framber. I think Framber is going to have another good year. Darvish, is Darvish ageless? Because Darvish is older than Kershaw, and we talk about Kershaw like he's an old man.
Darvish, remember, was the first half. Him and Gossman are the 2 guys that were great in the first half and really declined in the second. So Darvish dropped a little because of that. But I mean, if he just as recently last year, he had a stretch where he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. So
yeah, so it's like he's got to stay healthy, got to stay on the field, and even if he puts up relatively average numbers, if he's putting up 20 to 25 points a start, then he's right where you want him. Now he's got Tony Disco, who is another one who had a really hot first start and then faded real hard. But other than that, I just don't see very much out of his pitching staff. So unless Wheeler comes back like he did last season and does it again, he might be looking for some pitching.
He's going to be able to repeat what he did last year.
Yeah,
that defense was bad, and it just got worse. He has the worst defense potentially ever in baseball playing behind him. Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos are taking reps as short and third during spring training. Now, maybe it was just for fun. Like Yadi Molina will take reps as short here and there, but it's like if those 2 guys are ever going to have to play the infield, I mean, this was a team that had to put Reese Hoskins in the outfield at one point. This is a bad defensive team that he has.
I mean, that's the Phillies' MO, but you know what? They're going to mash, so they don't
but he
care.
Doesn't have any other hitters.
But he doesn't have any other hitters. We're a fantasy baseball pod.
He has Schwarber.
Oh, he does have Schwarber. So,
but I think just like you didn't believe in Walsh, I don't believe in Schwarber. Schwarber had a ridiculously great year but he ain't gonna do that again, in my opinion.
And then I don't know how I feel about Trevor Story. He could have a really good offensive year. I think being in Fenway is going to help his offensive numbers a lot
over being in Colorado.
Yeah, because
Colorado,
right? But but it's not easier
No,
to
I,
hit
I
in
agree because
Colorado.
in
It's easier.
Colorado,
It's harder to hit on the road.
yeah, and the issue with Colorado is when you go to the road, you're at a bigger disadvantage. That's why I don't
Exactly.
buy in. That's why with the Hall of Fame style, I'm like, man, when these guys go on the road, it's so tough on their bodies, and it's just. I will say, being in the AL East, I mean, you got little Yankee Stadium and their bad pitching staff. You got Fenway is a good place to hit. Toronto's a great place to hit.
Camden got
Tampa,
a little bit more difficult for righties,
a
and
little, but
then
it's still going to be good to hit. And then
the
Tampa
Trop is just the
is
Trop.
depends on if you can see the ball or not.
Yeah. And then Canada's always gonna do. I think Jordan is gonna go off this season.
Like every year when he's healthy.
Yeah, if he doesn't get hurt, I don't know if you saw that play from spring training the other day. That was terrifying.
No, I didn't.
Um, he slid for a ball in foul territory and looked like he was about two like half an inch off his slide from just totally blowing out his knee.
Oof.
So
Now this team does have Lindor, who should have a nice bounce back campaign, but
Lindor doesn't even have to be great. He just needs to
no.
regress a little bit.
And then Kettle Marte is another one where we don't really know where we're getting there.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a
So
team that
he's,
has a lot of I don't know what to expect. Bellinger, I don't know. Story, I don't know.
it seems like this team has a really low floor, and I don't know that their ceiling is all that high. It's a
I
good
think their
ceiling.
ceiling is high.
I think it's a good ceiling. I wouldn't describe it as a high ceiling.
I mean, when I look at this roster and knowing that this team's been one of the top teams the last couple of years, it's an underwhelming roster for me. But it's like, man, if Kel Marte has been that dude before, Lindor has been that dude before, Wheeler last year, Altuve's been MVP, Schwarber's last year, Alvarez should be great. If Story's had that time, Belger's been that guy, DeGrom. I mean, he has a lot of dudes who have been MVP candidates, like top 5 MVP candidates.
Right. So here's the thing is like, I don't think his floor is as low, but I think Daniel's lineup has a higher ceiling than this lineup does.
I disagree with that just because I don't think Daniel's team is deep enough. I think this team still has some depth, but
I can see that, but if a couple guys, it all depends on who finds it and who has a bad year.
But yeah, I think we both agree this is an underwhelming roster when you consider the fact that this is supposed to be a top team.
Well, I think it's a top team because he has so many guys that are just going to be average to good.
Yeah.
Like he may not have
Bellinger.
Well, his top players coming into last season would have been like Lindor and Bellinger, and then the last 2 years they've just not really had it. So I really think that that's going to be his key is he's got to have some guys regress to their averages and get back to where they were.
Now, something to remember too is he's a Cowboys fan for football, but a Mets fan for baseball.
He is a huge Mets fan, possibly the biggest Mets fan I know. So he's going to be rooting hard for.
Hilarious about that is he does have a lot of. He has Edwin Diaz on the Mets. He has Eduardo Escobar on the Mets, Mark Canha on the Mets, DeGrom on the Mets, and Lindor on the Mets. He is full of Mets players.
It's Mets bias, man.
He is a super Mets fan.
He is Flushing New York through and through. So he's gonna love listening to that.
Oh wait, is he gonna listen?
Of course he's listening. We're the #1 podcast.
We are. He's okay. Listen. He's already heard.
So why don't we go ahead and talk about our #3 team in the league, Mr. Wreck-It Ralph himself, Bohm.com, Yaz, Justin Yastrzemski.
So the background on him, he was the team. He was always 500, 7-9, 8-8, 9-7. Last year, we said that his team was looking good. We thought it'd be 500, but he was starting to go on the up and up. I think he went like 7-9, 8-8, 9-7, something like that. We were saying this is a team to look out for potentially, and we were right. He went 10-8. He was okay. He was one that, let's see, he would have been 1, 2, 3. He was the 5th team, 5th overall, so just kind of an average year. But he did well in the playoffs, got in 3rd place. This is a team that's been on the rise the last few years and should continue that, I would think.
I just don't know that I see that. I guess there's some names you can look to and point to and be like, yes, these guys are going to carry his offense. But looking over this roster, I don't know. Like Muncie's obviously going to do it because he's coming back healthy. Correa's going to do it, and Correa's going to have a great season and opt out. And then like who?
Well, I agree that the roster isn't the best, but let's first start with the draft. He took his first round pick was Tommy Edman. Very
Bold.
sketchy, bold pick because Edman has no power profile, and he's going to have to hit in the top of that lineup. And I don't know if he's getting top of the line because they got Carlson, they got O'Neill who kind of balled out.
So frame that for me a little bit. Who was still on the board? Like, what were the next couple of picks?
Remember that this is one that was all starting pitchers. So in order was Frankie Montas, Will Smith, Joe Musgrove, Gossman Lynn. Okay, so guys available were Charlie Morton, Yu Darvish, Tyler Malley, Justin Verlander, Carlos Rodon, Kershaw, Chris Bassett.
Yeah, and see now looking at his pitching
Javier
staff,
Baez.
he definitely could have done better.
Yeah, he should have taken a starter. And I think there are some hitters he could have taken because I don't think Edman would have gone the first couple rounds, personally.
No, probably not.
He's a good player. It's just shouldn't be your first pick, in my opinion. Now, maybe he believes in him. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he's got some stat.
Because like Dylan Carlson was his third round pick, and I think Carlson's a better fantasy play than Edman.
Yeah, for sure.
Now wait, what's his second base situation? He had Max Muncy for second, and
he's got Cronenworth.
He already had three guys that were second base, so he didn't need second base in Edman.
Did he keep Cronenworth, or was that a pickup?
He kept Cronenworth.
So he kept Cronenworth, Muncy, and did he keep Merrifield?
Yeah.
So he kept 3 second basemen and then took Tommy Edman with his
Did
first
not
pick.
need to take Edman.
Yeah, that's a tough start to the draft. And then kind of moving through his outfield.
He has a lot of second basemen.
He's deep, man. Deep up the middle.
But not short. He had second. I mean, the draft was young. Edman's young. Carlson's young. Ryan Mountcastle young.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that
Bobby
I
Dahlbeck is young.
much.
Madrigal young. Shea Langoliers in round 10 was a reach.
That's a little early for him.
Especially as a guy who's considered a good defensive player, not known for his offense, even though he has power.
Langoliers is also like sitting behind a lot of catchers.
Murphy, well, one.
So
he's sitting behind one.
I would think he's sitting behind 3.
Who?
Well,
it's Oakland A's. The thing is, you're not calling up Langoliers to be splitting back up with Murphy, so they're gonna wait to make sure he's fully ready. But I think he might come up this year. The A's suck. All right, they sold off their best players. They suck. He'll come up this year. And actually, you know what? It's Oakland. They don't like to spend money. They'll probably wait so they get an extra year of him.
Yeah, they're not going to bring anybody up until past the service time.
Yeah, I think the difference between him last year and this year is last year he had a good draft. This year, I don't like his draft as much.
Yeah, and I'm not really crazy about some of the prospects he kept. Like, where in the world is Jeter Downs?
He's the Red Sox.
No, I mean, like, he was supposed to be like up and be the next big thing like 3 years ago.
He was never considered that good.
In Red Sox circles, he was it.
Well, it's because because that was part of the big trade with Mookie.
Right. And then
if the big piece in that one was Verdugo, which is funny. He has Verdugo and Downs, both guys part of the Mookie trade because he is a Red Sox fan.
But then same with Mackenzie Gore. So he's got some prospects that like
I'm still a believer in Gore. He just lost his control.
I don't know, man. I think
his stuff is good. He just lost his control.
Yeah. So that means his stuff isn't good.
No, his stuff is good. He just doesn't know how to control it right now. No, I still think he's good, especially with the amount of injuries the Padres pitchers seem to have. He can have a chance.
Yeah, that's
This
but just
team's
like
built for this
looking
year.
at it, it's like his prospects are all dudes that were supposed to be like the next big thing 2 seasons ago.
But when you
And
look at
so
this,
it's
team,
like
it's young. It's a young team. Jeter Downs, Brandon Marsh, young. Cronenworth is young. Correa wasn't kept last year, so he has like 4 years he could keep Correa.
yeah. Okay, so let me ask
Alec
you this
Baum
then.
is young. Peralta young. Joe Ryan is a rookie opening day starter. Julio Rodriguez made the opening team as a rookie. Muncy is not old. Verdugo young. Cedric Mullins young. His draft: Edmund Young, Carlson Young, Mountcastle Young. This is a team with a lot of youth.
So let me ask you this: do you think this team is better than Poro's team?
No.
So do you think this is a playoff team?
Yes.
So okay.
I don't know. All right, wait.
If it is a playoff team, I'm
Black
penciling him in as
Uberg
the
are not in the
sixth team.
playoffs.
Okay, right. So if we're assuming that
Okay. So I think potentially Gaba could have a disappointing year. Yaz could miss out on the playoffs, especially because if he's doing bad, he might try and sell off a couple big pieces for all we know, because next year's a big draft and he's got youth, so he doesn't need to really buy anything.
draft picks are worth so much this year.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
His team might be better than Poro's. I don't know. Him and Poro are definitely battling out for that last playoff spot on paper.
Yeah. So I think that's the questions we
Poro's,
gotta ask. But
but the thing is, remember, this is an owner who has been improving year by year. Now, there's some teams that just talent-wise he can't overcome right now. But
it's like
ownership-wise, I believe that he could set himself up to really take over next year. He has the youth. He's experienced success, and we know his team could play in the playoffs. It might be next year where he really takes off.
It just seems like Yaz's teams are consistently average, and a lot of times average is enough to get you to the playoffs.
But he still did well in the playoffs last year.
He made it to the semis, right?
He won the semi. He made it to semis, and then he won that game. But he was third place.
Oh, okay. I see what he didn't. He won the third place game.
Yeah, he won the third place game.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a good. It's a rising team still.
Yeah.
A year off, in our opinion. A year off.
All right. So why don't we talk about the first runner-up from last season, owned by myself, the Tucson Isotopes.
Tucson Isotopes, owned by Jake Fussell. One of the worst teams our first 3 years in the league. And then last year, I was doubtful because he was so bad for so long. He was very optimistic heading into the year thanks to some trades with Southside Steelheads. And then Tucson Isotopes buy into the hype. That team went off. They went 12-6. They won their division.
Technically, we tied, and I lost the seeding on points scored. To be fair.
And then you did well in the playoffs. You beat your rival. Really strong year. But can it be repeated is the question.
I think I did pretty well on the draft. Got some guys that I'm pretty high on for this season, looking for them to have big years. Obviously, I'm probably one of the world's leading fans of Austin Riley. I think he's going to have a MVP caliber season that's cemented into the pins of our Discord. I'm also, I really think Jesse Winker is going to have a good year. Joey Gallo is going to have a good year, get a full season in New York. I know he was really terrible after he got traded there, but I think he's going to take advantage of that short right field. And then I think Ian Happ is going to have a better year than even he did last year. I think he finished OPS of it was 102 or 104 or something like that. OPS plus 102. So he was right at league average. I think he can do better than that. And then Byron Buxton, dark horse
Oh man.
MVP candidate if he
Every year,
stays on the field.
which
And
he won't.
I
Okay.
believe in it so much that I put $1 on DraftKings that he was going to win MVP.
When you watch him play, he's a skinny dude. He's injury prone. One thing about injury prone is once you have an injury, depends on the injury, but a lot of injuries, when you have them, you're more susceptible to have them in the future. The way he plays, super aggressive, and he's still in center field. I just don't see him
See,
taking
I
10% off
I
on
mean,
defense to try and stay healthier.
I think the Twins are going to be in it this year, and I
Oh,
think
they're
he's going
in
to be a
it.
big,
The Twins,
and I think
I
he's going
like
to be a
what the
big part
Twins
of it.
did. But the
And
Twins were
then
interesting because they were going for it for years, couldn't beat the Yankees. Last year they were going for it, and the team just sucked for some reason. And then they sold off all those pieces, and then they retooled it, and now they're still going for it with different, more honestly, probably better players.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
mean, continuing my lineup, Randy's going to be Randy. I was super happy to grab.
Wait, timeout. Another basketball update. It was Kansas just hit a big three, 2.5 minutes to go. 68-65 Kansas. Close game late.
Nice.
All right.
Continue.
Yes.
I like another full season of Teoscar Hernandez. He had a great year last year. A lot of great guys that I'm really high on this year. Obviously, if I wasn't, high on them, I wouldn't have drafted them or kept them. But I think some guys that could, obviously, I have Shohei Ohtani. So he's going to have a fantastic year again. Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer, if he stays healthy, that's a question mark in my lineup right now. But then I just got Eovaldi from Daniel right before the draft, which I was really happy about, just for some draft picks. And then, I'm going to get consistent work from Kyle Hendricks and Kyle Gibson, team Kyle, I guess. Hendricks, I think he's better. He was certainly better than the team he played on last year. And I think since, the Cubs just themselves got a little better this year, I think he can do a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the keepers, the Blue Jays trade away Grichuk, and they had a lot of outfielders there. So that frees up even more time for Hernandez to kind of just be the everyday guy no matter what. He hits the ball so hard too.
Yeah,
Riley, I think he's the real deal. I like his swing a lot, so I think he'll continue. Eovaldi's a solid 3 or 4, or 5. Rosarena, Buxton, we know Buxton's got to stay healthy, but yeah, I mean, this team's got some good players. Acuna's gonna come back; he'll be great. Ohtani ain't gonna be as good as he was, but he's still gonna be good, especially as a pitcher. We'll see what he is.
Let's see, I got to look at the splits here. If Joey Gallo puts up his Texas numbers from last year in New York this year, he's going to be nasty.
I personally don't. I hate his swing. So it looks so bad. I hate his swing so much.
Yeah, but he's got that short porch wiffle ball bat.
He's a super athlete. But when we went to New York last year midseason, he did horrible. He was worse in New York than he was in Texas.
Right, but at the same time, he hit 25 home runs in Texas, and it is hard to hit home runs in that ballpark. So he gets a full season of that short porch. Think about what he can do in New York. Until he shows the ability to hit consistently 240 at least, I don't believe in him. But he's not gonna see. I don't even know if he's gonna hit 240. He's.
I think he's athletically gifted enough to do it. It's just I hate his swing. That his swing to me is the reason he fails.
But his best season,
needs to change his swing.
He hit 253, so he's not. He does not hit for average. It just does not. It's not going to happen.
250 is fine by me with his power. That's what I'm saying. He just needs to be able to hit 240 consistently for me to believe in him. But so far, he's only done it once, and that's why I don't believe in him.
Yeah. So, I think
He's
the
Adam
the
Dunn.
Yankees have to better construct their lineup to make sure he's getting lots of fastballs.
I'll
But
say this: the Yankees should be worse than the Mets this year, which should be great for Gaba because he's the super Mets fan.
yeah, I think Gaba's going to be super happy that when the Mets win more games than the Yankees. I also kept some Tucson legends, Tristan Cassis, U of A alum, Nick Gonzalez, right from right here in Tucson. Just kind of happened. I
I
didn't
did
do it on
not
purpose.
know that they were Arizona, Tucson.
Yeah, Nick Gonzalez is from like, where is he technically from? I think he's technically from um let's see, Gonzalez. He is technically from Vale, which is like 20-30 minutes south of Tucson.
Uh,
So yeah, Southern Arizona legends right here. Then of course we got Ronnie. We have Ronnie sitting on the
you have
IL.
the best player in the league sitting on the IL.
Yeah, waiting to come back. And when he
He
comes
was the
back,
MVP last year before he got hurt.
he and Austin Riley are going to compete for MVP.
Acuna's the MVP, assuming he can. He's recovered from his issue.
Yeah. And then Byron Buxton's going to win it in the AL.
No, he don't say
So
that.
that's a pretty good summary
I
of the
mean,
Tucson
looking at the
Isotopes.
draft, I like Winker a lot.
I do too. I really
He's
think he's going to
he's
do well
always
in
raked.
Seattle.
I wish. See, I don't know if is he one of those guys that was always really bad against lefties, which is why he doesn't get at bats, or is he the guy who, because he's a lefty, he doesn't get lefty at bats, and so then he can't develop his ability to hit against lefties? Because to me, his bat ball skills are really, really good. I would think he could hit lefties. I know he's a platoon guy, and he'll probably platoon with Mitch Haniger a bit because Haniger rakes against lefties. But I like Winker a lot as a hitter.
Yeah, I do too.
Grandal is weird. He every year hits like 25 home runs. He's in like last year he was slow start, strong finish. All the other years he was strong start, slow finish.
Yeah, at that point, when I took him, third round, he was the best catcher available. I wanted to get the value out of that catcher pick. But then after the draft, I was able to pick up Darnell off waivers. So I wasn't disappointed in that either as far as a backup goes.
Yeah, it's a fine backup, especially if he does what he did in 2020. I mean, you
Yeah,
also
for
got
sure.
Rain Mill, who's usually been a good hitter.
I was shopping. Franmil was probably like my number 11th keeper vet from the guys I kept. And I was actually trying to shop him before the draft to see if anybody would give me something for him. So
he's not somebody I would think of as a keeper. He's just that guy you would always want to redraft.
it's like
A Nelson Cruz.
okay.
Almost.
Here's the thing though. He's definitely better than some of the guys that got kept on some of the lower teams.
Yeah.
So I was shopping him to those teams, hoping to get some kind of young guy return. But I'm not disappointed that I didn't make a deal and I was able to get him back in the draft.
His biggest issue is he plays for Cleveland, and I hate their offense and their stadium. Their team isn't going for it, so he's in a bad situation. But
he could also play himself to a contender. So
yes. And then William Adames is a good value play at short. I don't think he's going to be super legit, but 25 home runs
all my time
is very
in this
reasonable.
League, I have always struggled to maintain talent at short and second base. That's the routinely position that I'm lacking.
You definitely do lack that.
I don't know if I just
for a team that's lacking short, that was a good pick. Because when I was looking at my draft, because I've always made sure I have a shortstop. So I had Bogarts, and then I had Tim Anderson, who I can replace him with. But I was like, Adames, if he falls, I'll take him because that's a good value play there. But you got him. It is what it is. Not a bad pick. Gallo can be a fantasy monster. It's just, what will he be? Inconsistent, more than likely.
Yeah.
I don't really like Luis Urias personally. But I like Kyle Hendricks.
I don't like Urias either.
I like Scott.
But he's on the team because he can play 3 different positions and can fill in especially in those middle infield slots where I'm already not very strong. He's just
The other thing I
got the
liked was he took
utility.
2 Tiger players, and the Tigers look like they're going to be pretty decent this year.
I'm excited about the Tigers this year.
Yeah, because they were good last year with the bad roster. So now you figure they got H.A. Hinch, who's a good manager. Miggy now is like the old guy that you don't have to rely on anymore.
He's a player coach.
Yeah, now you got Baez. Cannelario's continues to barrel the ball. Scope usually barrels the ball up. They're a good team. So you got that offense should be better. And now the park, unfortunately, is not great. But
Yeah.
no, I mean it's a solid team. To me, though, when I look at this roster, personally, I don't see second place. It's top heavy, obviously, with Ohtani, Acuna, Buxton.
So, okay. So objectively, where do you see this team?
I see this team as like 4th or 5th.
You think, okay, let me ask you this question then. Because I think I know who you're thinking is in the top 2 spots. Do you think this team is better than Yaz's team?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think this team is better than your team?
No.
You think this big team is better than Coelho's team?
No.
So then I think that would make this team objectively a 3rd place team.
Well, I have you behind Adam, Coelho, and me, which would put you at 4.
Yeah, see, I think I still have a better lineup than you, but that's the subjective part.
Right. Well, even objective. I mean, it's not like our objective opinion are going to be the same.
Objectively, I think this is like a solid, easily a top 4 team for sure. Subjectively,
it's so much better than it used to be.
You have no idea.
I still think the depth isn't great, and it's still a little top heavy. But
subjectively, this is the number 1 team in the league.
No, not even
no
close.
Shame. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and talk about the actual number 1 team in the league?
This is definitely the number 1 team in the league.
Yeah,
no doubt.
For sure. The Northside Headsteels, owned by Adam Terranoni. Tell us about this team.
Their year-to-year finishes: 1st, 2nd, 1st. You talk about dynasty. This is who you're talking about. 12-6. So record-wise, he was not that much ahead of everybody else, but points scored. So just to give people an idea, I was 2nd in points scored with 9,600. The next closest in points scored was like 95. Okay. Adam was 1st in points scored. He had over 10,000. He scored 400 more than the 2nd place guy. It was not even close. By far, the points per game wise, to give you an idea of points per game, he was 25 more points per game than this next best team in points scored, which is absurd.
And the man just lives on the waiver wire.
Oh my moves.
It's amazing that he has such like top tier talent for how many moves he makes, but it's day in, day out. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. He's gonna waiver wire you an acquisition to death.
We should have the moves from.
He made the most moves last year by far, and it wasn't even close.
I got it. Dang it. Yes, here we go. He had 165 waiver acquisitions. Next was 78. Woo.
Yeah. I like a lot of looking through his lineup, he's got the controversial prospect pickup for Seiya Suzuki.
Super controversial.
Who should have had to go to the draft.
Timeout. Update. Kansas just won it all, 72-69.
Congratulations. Sorry you have to live in Kansas.
Rock, chalk, Jayhawk, we just learned is a thing. Doesn't really roll off the tongue, folks. There's nothing in Kansas, by the way. I mean, I guess you got Topeka. Kansas City isn't even in Kansas. Isn't that sad? Gosh.
Rip. So looking at his lineup, obviously it's so top heavy. Freddie, Ozzy, Jose Ramirez, Glaber, Marcelo Zuna, Kyle Tucker, Bryce Harper, Jonathan India, Anthony Rendon, Javier Baez is on his bench.
I mean, this is a guy who probably I thought might even not keep Rendon because of the injury history. It's just Rendon is like his worst player. That's how crazy.
And the fact, looking at his bench, it's Bo Bichette, Trey Turner, Eloy Jimenez, like some dudes on the bench right now.
It's just stupid. It's
I don't know he
top
hasn't set his
heavy.
lineup, but like
It's top heavy and deep. I mean, his draft, I don't like Taylor Malley that much, but not a bad pick. He had 2 first-round picks. The top team had 2 first-round picks. And it's like when he took Verlander, who we know is going to be good. Javier Baez, who's high ceiling, not a low floor, but definitely high ceiling. Ozuna, who should be better. Logan Gilbert. Glaber Torres, now playing second base, is definitely going to be better. Suarez is going to be better. I mean, this is just a good team.
The only place that I will really nitpick
relief
is on his pitching staff. That,
definitely a top hitting
for sure.
Yeah.
And I know he likes to, part of the riding the waiver wire is definitely just picking guys up to make starts.
Kind of the same mentality that I have had.
Yeah. Now he's got if Justin Verlander comes out but does his thing, I still don't think Justin Verlander is, a top pitcher anymore. He's just kind of, reaching the end of his career.
I personally think he is. I mechanically and stuff wise, he is really good in my opinion.
I mean, we haven't seen him pitch in 2 years, so he's kind of a big wild card.
Spring training. He's been pitching spring training.
Spring training doesn't matter.
Well, he's been dominating in spring training.
Okay, because people take spring training it's like it counts if you're doing well. It doesn't count if you're not doing well.
Everybody, spring training means everything. Just kidding. I don't believe that. It doesn't mean
I think
I just personally believe Verlander is almost like a Tiger Woods type, where even after injuries, he could come back and be the top player.
Yeah, we'll just have to see, if his velo is still up where it was. Is he still, this is also Verlander post sticky stuff. So who knows where he's going to be.
He was not on sticky stuff.
Do you want to look at his
not at that
last season?
To me,
on
he's
the Tigers,
like Scherzer, Kershaw, Verlander. To me, they might have been using sticky stuff, but they're the type of pitchers who, with or without it, are the top pitchers in the game.
I think Scherzer was just personally. I think Scherzer was just a guy using it actually for grip. I 100% believe Justin Verlander got to Houston.
Oh, 100%.
And said, that. I can use spider tack or whatever other stuff to increase my spin rate. Heck yeah.
But yeah, I remember too, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball with Detroit. So I don't think it really matters.
For sure. But I'm telling you, look at the spin rates in his last season at Detroit versus what he was in Houston.
I still think he's going to be
post sticky stuff. Verlander is a question mark for me. Now, if Sandy Alcantara continues to,
I like him.
Be an ace on Miami. I like him a lot.
Whenever he pitch against the Braves, it's like they have no chance to hit the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's like watching them against Jose Hernandez again. Fernandez.
Okay, I was about to say who's Hernandez.
Hey, I'm not good with names. And then if Alek Manoah, I like Manoah Samoan. If he keeps developing. But then after that, it's like, does Patrick Sandoval kind of find something this year?
Well, Sandoval was good last year, except does
Ranger Suarez pitch out of the bullpen? Is he a long relief guy? Is he a starter?
Know. He should be a starter. He's their second best pitcher.
So that's the thing. There's some question marks. So I think the pitching staff is kind of the only place that I can nitpick this team. So I'm going to do it just for the sake to make my team feel better.
Oh, okay. Your team's not as good as this team, by the way.
No,
nobody's team is as good as this team. And we know he's going to make the moves to make sure it stays the top team.
So he's objectively
with somebody that is selling, and he's going to get more top players to make sure the dynasty continues.
So the hardest thing to do in sports is going to be repeat. Do you think he repeats this year?
Well, he's already repeated. So yeah, he could.
But
now three-peating's tougher.
There's a lot of teams gunning for that title this year, though.
I will say the one thing with this keeper list is there were a lot of guys that were in their last year.
Right, which is to be expected from a a dynasty team like this, right? Like he's going to have guys that have been around for a while. But I'm saying that, if a lot of guys are gunning for that top spot, if it gets to the trade deadline and draft picks are worth so much, you're going to see a lot of draft picks moving for talent to come after him.
I think Coelho, knowing how much he likes to make moves, is the team to watch out for because he has the top heavy dudes. Now he can make the trades and try and overtake Adam with it. But remember, Coelho has also worked with the Rays.
So he's got
their
devil
front
magic.
office. So he might have the mentality of maintaining something rather than going for it all in 1 year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can
and
see
dumping guys off as soon as he's got to pay them.
I don't see guys like Poro or Yaz or them just saying, screw, I'm going to go for all this year. It would have to be Gaba or Coelho.
Ooh, interesting.
Or you.
Hey, I just saw in the standings, it gives a projected playoff percentage, like expected. It does. It has Adam at 85% likely. The next best team is it has Duberg's team at 78% likely. That's wrong.
Oh,
okay, never mind. I'm not reading the rest of these because if that has his team at 78,
the
it's
next
all
two are you
bunk.
and me. And remember how we're trying to see who was better. It has you 73, me and 72. But
and then it
you were at
has
78. It's already. It's
and
like
it has
like
Coelho at 42. Okay, this is bunk. I don't believe
like
a
Pacoda.
single thing of it.
This is like
never
Pacoda.
mind. I'm sorry, listeners. That
it
wasn't
has
worth
DG at 53. It has Fleck at 61.
It has Fleck at higher percentage or likelihood than Coelho.
and Poro.
Oh man.
And yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good place to end this episode on.
The Pacoda standings never lie. By that I mean they always lie, but you can trust them to always lie.
As long as Pacoda has the Braves finishing third in the NL East, I'm all in on them.
I think MLB finally put the Braves coming in first. I don't know about Pacoda though.
They said, maybe winning the division 4 straight years means something.
Has Pacoda released theirs yet? I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay, well, that was a great team profile and projection for the 2022 season. We're going to check back in maybe a month or so to figure out what these teams have been doing, if there's been any major shakeups. But until then, this has been Jake's on first, and the Jakes are signing off.
Yes.